Welcome back to the Rise with Anita podcast, or welcome if this is your first time here. Today's conversation is for the women who are leading teams, building businesses, making decisions, and carrying responsibility, and who are ready to do it with more confidence, clarity, and authority. Today, I'm joined by Ms. Joyce Toti, the founder of Collective Women's Leadership, owner of Pause Summerlin, and author of Wardrobe Wisdom, the transformative power of merchandising your closet. Joyce is a leader whose presence changes rooms, not through force or volume, but through grounded confidence and clarity. Her work bridges structured leadership with soulful confidence, reminding women that the real authority shows up not only in how you speak and decide, but in how you present and carry yourself. With decades of experience mentoring women from early careers to executive leadership, Joyce challenges women to stop shrinking, stop overperforming, and stop leading alone, and instead step into leadership with intention, focus, and presence. So before we dive in, I've been doing something a little new, and that's, are you willing to take a breath with me?
Yes.
So, inhale slowly through your nose, hold for 4, and exhale for 6. And this is just to kind of ground and allow us to soften into our bodies and let the body settle. Because leadership requires presence, and presence starts here. So, Joyce, I'm so honored to have you.
Well, I'm so excited for that amazing intro. Thank you for having me. That was awesome. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So I usually kind of start off the podcast with a different question before we get into the nitty gritty, and that is, what is bringing you joy so far in 2026?
Oh, wow. What is bringing me joy? I think my family life is really great, and you know, everyone's healthy, and our kids are flourishing. And we have great travel plans, but Collective Women's Leadership is also expanding and growing and getting larger by the minute, and I'm very, very excited about that.
Beautiful. I love that you bring up family because I think that's so key. And what I love about you is I've noticed how many hats you wear, and it's like, even if you're crossed between meetings, you're very into staying present and staying grounded, and I think that's beautiful. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for that.
I definitely try. I think it's a concerted effort. It doesn't come naturally, but I've been doing this a long time and always having a lot of things going on, so I flourish in the chaos at times.
I love that you said it like that. So when you think about leadership today, what does it truly require of women?
Having a backbone, being fierce, being consistent, showing up like they mean it. And there's so many things that I could say about those things, and I do feel as though, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but I have a lot of opinions as it relates to what women are being taught, especially the newer generation with social media influence, and women thinking there is an easier way. There sometimes isn't. You have to put your reps in. You have to do the work in order for it to look as though it's easy.
Mm-hmm. So when you say having a backbone, what does that mean to you?
Walking into a room like you own it. Owning the confidence that you've earned and that you have and that you bring into any room. And I talk about not shrinking often. Because I truly believe that at times I think women are raised or taught still to this day to, act a certain way and walk a certain way and be a certain way. And if we are women that have opinions or women with a point of view that is strong, we're coined different names, whether that's she's too direct or she's too bossy or she's a bitch. All of those things that don't go away have not gone away for generations now. And so those are all titles I've leaned into. Definitely know that those are talked about in some circles when I'm talked about, and I couldn't love it more.
I love that approach. I couldn't love it more because so many people kind of shrink, to your point, when they hear that. And it's like they want to shy away from being considered too much, when in reality, what you're saying is challenging the narrative of how about you own being too much rather than shrinking yourself to appease others.
Yep.
Beautiful. So how would you define confidence in leadership, especially for women in business now?
Ooh, that's a big, big question. It starts with kind of owning your presence and owning who you are consistently, and how you're showing up on the outside matters as much as how you're showing up on the inside. Really being prepared for rooms that you're walking into, really understanding what path you want to take next, having a point of view when necessary, and having a point of view when not necessary. I think being opinionated is okay. Being overconfident is okay. You know, all of the words that I've kind of like grown up with hearing at times that people don't like is not a me issue. It's the person standing across from me's issue, because they've chosen not to have a point of view or not to share it is definitely not my business.
Oof, I love that. Very true. I think there's something so beautiful about what you just said about having your own point of view and sharing it and expressing it, because I know I've been guilty of sometimes letting the room kind of overtake, and it's like I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm just going to stay quiet in the backside, and then afterwards you're sitting there going, why didn't I just speak up?
Right.
So I think the way that you're challenging that narrative is so beautiful and so needed, especially when it comes to females in leadership today, and just females in general, if we're being honest.
Sure. Yeah, just all of the generational things that we've all been dealing with for many, many generations, right? Whether it was 2 or 3 generations back up until now. I find that in the work that I'm doing and the work that we do at Collective Women's Leadership, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, and it doesn't matter what title you hold. Every single thing that women struggle with is the same.
Absolutely. And we all carry multiple hats, so that's amazing that you kind of honor that. What I really actually have enjoyed about Collective Women's Leadership, for me personally, is just the networking, and you create kind of this like safe space of like sisterhood, where it's like, you know that regardless of what industry or where people are at, you can go to them and, hey, can we have a coffee chat? Or, hey, can we collaborate in some way? And there's that openness that you don't necessarily find in some circles. There's this like beautiful community you've been able to curate. And I use that word intentionally because I do fully believe that it's like a curated sisterhood almost of people who are willing to not only step into higher versions of themselves, but also people who are willing to collaborate versus see each other as competition. Because I've noticed there are people who perhaps do the same thing in similar industries, but there's not that competitive edge. I think that as we're kind of gearing into this new era of entrepreneurship, there's a beauty in that.
Yeah, I think any culture starts at the top. And when I founded Collective Women's Leadership, I wanted 2 things to be, well, I guess 3 things checked at the door when you became a member. The first one is we don't care about the industry that you're in. We definitely don't care about the title that you hold. And no one is here with an ego.
Absolutely.
And when they see that and they feel that, and they, especially women in specific industries who are used to certain networking groups where every single time they walk into a very structured networking event, like cards are being thrown out, people are vying for other people's business, people are trying to one up because of, you know, what I do in this industry. Literally no one cares. There is a time and place for your title that you should be proud of. It's not typically in networking situations. It definitely doesn't belong in Collective Women's Leadership. And I think people feel that from me and from my other founding members. And we're truly here to help one another rise in whatever that looks like for you today. So if you come to one of the Coffee Connects and you just need to talk about maybe a frustrating industry issue that you're dealing with right now, and you need another person's perspective, it's going to be given to you from a heart perspective, not from needing to gain your business perspective. And that's a very, very different approach. I don't believe, and also there are some times where we do have structured events, of course. We have educational events and those types of things. But most of the time, I really like to have the casual networking events because that's where the magic happens. The magic happens over a cup of coffee when you're talking about and getting to know somebody in a totally different industry. And we do start talking about very specific leadership issues that maybe women are having. And, oh, wow, you go through that too in real estate? Well, I go through that in my industry, and I'm an interior designer, and I didn't think we would have the same challenges, yet we do.
Absolutely, because it comes across the board.
Right.
Beautiful. So where do you see capable women most often holding themselves back?
When they, I think when they lack self-trust and they've not worked through that into their late, into their mid to late 40s, because maybe they have never been vocal about having a point of view, and they've never been vocal about voicing their opinions, and they never were taught and never learned how to show up as their true self. There's a lot of times where we work with women, and I work with women, and one of the first conversations I always have with them is like, who do you see yourself, and what do you see yourself like as a leader? And it truly starts with two things, in my opinion: the way they're showing up physically on the outside and what their values are on the inside. Unless you really get down and do that work, you can never have a personal brand. And I challenge anyone to challenge me on that. And there are a lot of times that creating and building your own personal brand or your brand is such a buzzword right now. And there are a lot of people out there that teach that. And I just always caution women to be very clear in who they are first, before they dive into the big bad world of branding.
I love that you went there. And actually, one thing I was just telling someone the other day was entrepreneurship is not for the weak.
I literally just did a story on Instagram about that today.
Amazing alignment. Because it's like, if you have anything that's going to come up, it will come up as you're facing yourself through the entrepreneurship journey. You'll have your doubts. You'll have your moments of, what the heck did I just do? And so it's not for the faint of heart. And that's where I think almost the stability of having a typical standard 9-to-5 comes for a lot of people, because it's easier to, or safer feeling to be able to have something stable and consistent, where you don't necessarily find yourself necessarily pushing the edge unless you're trying to climb the corporate ladder. That's a different story.
Yeah, corporate America will never go away. I loved corporate America. I thrived in corporate America. I was in it for over 2 decades, I think almost 3 decades. I loved everything about corporate America. And there are women, most of the women that I teach and work with are in corporate America. There is nothing wrong with corporate America. Absolutely. And I think at times in our situations or where we're sitting, I don't ever try to sell somebody on how to get out of corporate America, because I think I like it. There are aspects of it that women need to learn how to navigate better. And within corporate America, you can still build your personal brand. And I think that's where people are missing a lot. There's a big gap and missing link with, you can be a badass corporate America emergent leader who just graduated and got your first role in corporate. Now, within that time, you're learning so many invaluable lessons that cannot be taught. Absolutely. You're learning how executive leaders within your space show up, how they walk, how they carry their cup of coffee, there are so many small things that are not teachable just by watching and paying attention to what happens in corporate America. And then you can see these other incredible women who got to the C-suite, who got to executive vice president roles, and how they did that. You have to be in a corporate setting to learn that, right? You can't learn these things without ever been in those positions, and you can't teach those things. And so I thrived in corporate America. I thought it was wonderful. But I also learned how to love it. And I think it gets a bad rap sometimes today. Mm-hmm. But I do encourage those, if you like it, you love your job, and you just don't know how to navigate through it, right? We also, that's one of my sweet spots when I mentor women, because most women who I work with and corporations that I work with are with emergent leaders and executives in terms of them just making small changes to become stronger.
Beautiful. So you mentioned you thrived in corporate. Yeah. What made you decide to take the leap into entrepreneurship then?
COVID. I was furloughed. I wasn't given a choice. And I literally, so I honestly, if COVID didn't happen and I was not mandated to take my furlough, I would still be in corporate America. And COVID happened. I was furloughed. I was really upset and mad and spending too much time on my treadmill, and kind of reassessed everything after the world reopened. And I had always wanted to go back to school. So I went back later in life to get my MBA right after COVID. And that was a 2-year program, and then decided through my MBA program while I was in it, there was a gap in the market amongst women networking organizations. 1, they were title specific, or 2, they were industry specific. Mm-hmm. 2 things that you will never find at Collective Women's Leadership.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love that kind of was your story, because I feel like for one reason or another, these days, the more stories I keep hearing, it seems like the pandemic, good or bad, in terms of experience, has been a shifting point for a lot of people to either realize their purpose or to realize there was something more for them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's beautiful. But it's interesting, though, because you technically have always had a history of mentorship in one way or the other.
Right.
So it's not like you completely changed what you were doing. You just changed how you're doing it.
Yeah, I grew up, listen, I worked in the luxury retail market for many years, all throughout the country and throughout some of Europe. And my role was leading large, sales teams, either to open markets, expand markets, all of those things. And in the retail world, kind of at the store level, is typically females. At the executive level at the time, it was more males. So I had this beautiful balance now that I'm looking back at it, right? At the store level, I was always mentoring women how to get to the next step, right? How to show up differently, how to command a room, how to lead sales teams, how to lead sales goals, all those things. While communicating with the executive team and how that was working. And, I pride myself on promoting many, 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 many women over, I think I did I think I figured out how many, but in my tenure, I think I promoted over 1,000 women into different leadership roles throughout their careers. So truly mentor, getting them to the next level, and all around the country.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, shifting gears a little bit, what would you say it means to use your voice as a leader, especially in high-stake environments?
I would say it means to use your voice as a leader that's a big question. Hold on. It's a really big question. I got to articulate this. How to use your voice as a leader. Really, as a leader, when you're using your voice and making decisions for the better good of the organization, you better be fully bought into the words you're using, and you better be fully bought into the actions that need to be taken to get there. I think having that point of view confidently, and even if you're not the ultimate leader and you have people to report to, you should have that same tone and expectation, managing up or managing down. I've actually worked with a lot of male leaders that don't have a backbone. they manage down very well, right? But then when they have to advocate for a team or a sales team or the others, they're too political at the top because they're afraid of their own job. And I find that very weak. And I've worked with more men men are actually worse at that than women.
That's very interesting because you would think it would be the opposite.
No. Mm-mm. I have many examples of men who don't have a backbone in leadership. Yes. It's true.
So basically what you're saying is it comes down to conviction and, in a way, being really bought into whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, and why at a corporate level we have to be so political? Like, I've never fit into that at all. I was never politically correct. I'm not politically correct now. Maybe I am, but at times I didn't wish I had to be so that way.
Beautiful. So why do you think women these days over-explain or soften their message?
Because they're afraid of being called out. They're afraid of someone telling them that that's not the way they see it. They're afraid of tough conversations. They're afraid of negotiating. They're not prepared. So I teach a lot about preparedness in tough conversations and high-stake environments. Oftentimes, it comes down to a simple act of not preparing for the meeting and for what you want. And if you go into a meeting that you know has been on your calendar and it's a high-stakes meeting and you're not prepared and you have not practiced in front of a mirror with a peer, whomever, in terms of what you're saying and how you're saying it and how you're executing on it, you'll fail.
Wow. Actually, interestingly enough, tough conversations has been kind of a theme for me this week. So I'm curious, how do you go into a tough conversation these days when you know that there's going to be both that discomfort, but you don't know the end result?
Yeah.
All you know is like what you want to convey.
What you want to convey, or what you want, is it a negotiation meeting? Are you coming out of the other end with a solution, right? All of those things. So I think you prepare for what you want. You prepare for and that what that conversation is going to look like from your perspective. You prepare for what you're willing to settle on and negotiate with. And then you prepare to table it and resume the conversation if you can't come to an even playing field or a negotiation that you're comfortable with. So you do have to prepare in 3 separate ways, and get your nerves out and figure out what you're going to say and have notes. For some reason, there are people that think that when you go into a high stakes meeting or a high stakes negotiation that you can't have notes out in front of you with bullet points. Why you wouldn't, I don't know, especially in those types of meetings. Right. But they come down to really simple tactics in order to kind of own the room that you're going in.
Beautiful.
The handshake starts with the first one. From
Absolutely.
A woman's perspective, if you're not walking in fully ready to own the room and shake people's hands like you mean it, you immediately are not in charge.
Interesting. I never thought about that, but I do know for me personally, interestingly enough, I had a boyfriend of my mother's when I was young, and he taught me how to do like a proper handshake. And to this day, I will never forget that, because I remember being, at the time, because I was still like 11, 12 maybe, I was like, what is the point of this? And he was like, listen, kid, later on, when you're in meetings and you're out and about, you need to know how to do a proper handshake where it doesn't look like you're just weak. And
That's
it was
right.
very eye-opening, and something to this day that I've taken with me. And that's what I use as I'm going into these, like, whether it's a networking event or just meeting a new person that I feel is like high stakes or a high point of contact. I'm like, it's interesting because you think of it as something so small, but it's something actually that makes a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, you'd be shocked at how women enter a boardroom or a meeting and shrink immediately after walking through the door.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
They're not prepared. Goes back to just not being prepared.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, what are a subtle way that you would say for a person to start preparing for a high stakes meeting?
Well, you know the topic, and you know what the talking points will be, and you know what you're not willing to settle on and what you are willing to settle on. And so it's truly writing out kind of your talking points, number one, and number two, starting the conversation. And I always challenge people, like, have the conversation with a trusted peer, have the conversation in front of the mirror, have the conversation in front of your camera on your cell phone, anywhere. I mean, you can practice so many different ways. Role play in your head, how many times you have to have this conversation. You probably know the person on the other side of the table in some capacity, right? You know what you're going to negotiate and talk about and get through the tough conversation, even if it's not a negotiation and it's just an uncomfortable conversation, because you have to address a certain situation that needs to be addressed. So just being prepared, take your notes, write things down, and start prepping yourself mentally for the meeting.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that you bring in preparation and just knowing what you need to say, because I feel like, for me, I hate being put on the spot more than anything. So it's always been like, if I'm prepared, I can do a really great job, but do not put me on like the spot.
Sure.
Because I feel like that's when I start shrinking a little bit of my energy. Shifting gears a little more onto this topic of voice. I do remember at one of the wine nights, I believe it was, I remember hearing you say that teaching a woman to find her voice is actually one of the hardest things you can do. So what is a tip or something that you do try when a person comes to you to navigate that scenario?
Of finding her voice? So we always start with the two, right? Really, depending on her situation, where she's at, all of those types of things, what she wants to be known for and what she values. Most women have never sat down and thought about, in any situation, what she wants to be known for and what people are saying about her when she's not in rooms or circles. And until you do that work and figure out what you want to be known for and why you want to be known for these types of things, you won't ever find your voice. You really have to put the work in and do some self-reflection. What matters to you? What values do you bring to the table? What and how do you want to be known? All of those things. And do you want to be known as for your personal brand of selling a product or service, right? And how are you showing up in doing so? Do you want to be known as the person who's thriving in corporate America, and what does that look like? Whatever it is for women is the starting point of finding your voice. Beautiful.
I think that's interesting, because I've never heard it be tagged on like, hey, you need to go to your values first.
You have to, always. You have to go to your values first. Honesty, integrity, showing up on time, having a point of view, all of those things are part of people's values and how they work in environments.
What would you say is the biggest shift a woman can find once she starts to trust her voice?
If she goes back to her values and stays true to her values, what happens is she becomes more confident in a few areas very quickly, because she's now identified what she wants to be known for and how she wants to be known for it. Then she's identified the leadership qualities that she wants to be known for. So I think when those things start clicking into place for her, everything else then starts to follow. Then we talk about her leadership presence and who she wants to be known for without saying a word. And that has everything to do with what you're wearing and how you're wearing it and how you present yourself and all of those types of things. And it has to be consistent in order for there to be like a lasting impact in regards to how people remember you and how effective you are in communicating and using your voice.
Beautiful answer. And you just segued me into exactly where I wanted to go, because you had wrote the book, Wardrobe Wisdom, which frames clothing as a leadership tool, not for vanity. Why does how we present ourselves matter in leadership?
Oh, well, for people make assessments, I think it's in like 0.3 seconds. I'm not sure the exact number. They make assessments of you like long before you say your first word, long before your hand is going out for the handshake, but they are absolutely assessing like how you've shown up, how you've prepared, what you look like, all of those things. And if you don't agree with it, that's fine. It's true. And we were given the gift of eyesight for a reason. We choose our partners based on eyesight and using our eyes first. We use our eyesight to think that something looks really good and delicious to eat, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about everything we use our eyesight for, it's not discriminating against making judgments of people and how effective they are in their leadership roles with what they look like.
Beautiful. So, what would you say our wardrobes actually communicate before we speak?
How prepared we are, how serious we're taking our role. Do you have lint and dog hair and cat hair all over you? Like, are you a clean person? Are you an organized person? I mean, what do your nails look like? Is your jewelry clean? Is your makeup on point? And if you don't, then listen, people come at me because I say makeup, and don't come at me. I love makeup, and the statistics are out that if you wear makeup to work, you make, I think, 30% more. So don't come at me, come at the statistic. And if you're not a makeup girl, all I'm asking you to do is wash your face in the morning, put some moisturizer on your face, right?
Yeah. And
look your best self. But your best self, I can promise you, no one feels their best rolling out of bed.
No.
Nobody.
No.
Right? So if you're not a makeup girl, I get it. But just look fresh and dewy a little bit. Would you just get the sleep out of your eye? I'm not even saying wear mascara, because they come at me for that too. Like, they think that I'm telling every woman she has to be a makeup girl. I never once said that. Just present your most confident self.
Yeah.
And that confident self isn't rolling out of bed.
Absolutely. Actually, I think that's the one thing from COVID that was a big thing, is like you would have these people on Zoom meetings and it's like, you're still in your pajamas. Like, and for me, even because I was still in corporate at the time, I remember going, this feels very weird to go from when you were in office, right, you had a certain presentation, mm-hmm, to now I'm working from home and I don't want to wear makeup just to be on a Zoom call. Yeah. It was a very interesting balance. And for me, after a certain point, I think it was like maybe 2-3 months in, I was like, nope, I'm going back to dolling up, because I just personally feel better. I don't care about what others on the call, right, might be doing,
right,
but I personally feel better in how I show up.
Right.
So it's also, to tack on to your point, there's a certain confidence that comes with that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, well, 100%.
Yeah. So how do women unintentionally undermine their authority with how they show up?
Wait, say that again.
How do women unintentionally undermine how they show up?
Unintentionally undermine how they showed up. They're not prepared. They look like a disheveled mess. They've got 55,000 excuses as to why they couldn't present their best self that day, and no one cares about your excuses. Yes, there's a time and place about, God forbid, an emergency or something very tragic. And I'm not talking about those times. I'm talking about times that your life is always a hot mess express. If your life is always a hot mess express, no one's ever going to take you seriously, ever, because everyone has a million things going on.
Especially as women.
Yeah.
So what's one shift women can make to align their outer presentation with their inner authority?
Say that again. Sorry.
No worries. What's one shift women can make to align their outer presentation with their inner authority?
Well, your outer presentation, first and foremost, has to be in line with what your inner authority feels like. So if you are someone who has it nailed down, like what your outer authority looks like, but you've not done the internal work, you are performing. It's not real. Like, you're literally faking it. And most people can see right through that. Most of the time, you don't see that. Most of the time, their inner authority has become strong. They just don't know how to present it because they've never assessed their wardrobe to be sure it's aligning with who they are.
Mm-hmm. I do remember you did a Instagram reel maybe a few weeks back about dressing in different stakes and whatnot, mm-hmm, and even like how your casual outfits can, mm-hmm, present a certain message. So you're not always saying you have to be in a power suit.
No.
But you basically encourage women to show up as feeling your best self and still looking somewhat put together.
Yes. Yeah.
And so for me, I think the interesting thing was a lot of times, again, post COVID,
Yeah.
I feel like the trend has been like full blown like athleisure when you're not at work. And I think what was nice about the way you presented kind of the different spins on different outfits was just you don't always have to sway away, but have a certain kind of like, I think it comes back to the embodiment and the confidence that's there of like still taking time to present yourself to being like authentic to yourself.
Yeah, I always encourage women, like, there's a very easy tip. Like, we all have our calendars. We all know what's going on for the week. We all know what's going on for the month. And I really try to teach women how to choose and curate their outfits for the week, not the day of.
Yeah.
Especially if, you know, we're all very busy. We all have a lot of things going on. So really making sure that what you're showing up for and how you're showing up is very consistent with the image and the voice you want to portray.
Beautiful. So how would you say presence changes the way a leader is actually received?
Oh, in every way you could possibly imagine. The way a leader shows up with how they are dressed can command a room instantly or shrink a room instantly. And if you are dressed the part as a leader, you can command you can command the room instantly.
Absolutely. So you wear many hats throughout the day. How do you ground yourself and stay present in the midst of such a full schedule?
I'm really, really glad that it seems like I present that way on the outside. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do. I take self-care very seriously. So I work out every single morning. I get up very early and I get through a bunch of junk emails and I have my coffee. I'm a very much a ritual person. I'm not a chaotic person. So everything down to the very last thing is pretty much planned throughout my week and my month and my day. So I run a strict schedule with myself. I work out and my goal every night is to be home with my husband to have dinner. And we have, a traditional dinner, him and I at the dinner table every single night. If our kids are there, if they're not there, they're not, we're empty nesters. But even when the kids are in town, we have our ritual moments and times together. But I'm able to turn most everything off during that time together that him and I have and during the evenings. But I start really early at 5 a.m. So
amazing. I was just about to ask what your early morning was, so you answered that ahead of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
What role would you say boundaries and focus play in strong leadership?
What? Say it again.
What role do boundaries, and focus play in strong leadership?
A lot. I mean, you have to have, and to be an entrepreneur or to be a business owner or to be anything, you've got to set like clear boundaries in terms of, when it's work time and when it's me time and when it's, you have those kind of flow, structured time as well is important. But just that self-care piece is very, very, very important.
Beautiful. What's a non-negotiable for you when it comes to staying grounded?
Waking up at 5, having my coffee, really that time between like 5 and 7 when the world isn't up yet. And I'm up and I've already started and I've completed a lot of things for my day already, but at my own pace and before people are even starting to think of waking up.
Beautiful. So I'm curious, because we all have moments when we might feel overwhelmed or stressed. What do you do when you're in that state of starting to feel like there's a little bit of overwhelm because of where you might be in terms of business or life in general?
I either call a mentor or someone on my team and just say, like, my head's spinning, it's going in a lot of different directions. Like, how should I proceed in this situation?
How has grounding changed the way you lead?
Oh, I think grounding has changed the way I lead with us. Just as we grow, we just set stricter boundaries for one another and change workflows. And they know I'm up at 5 a.m. So I used to text them, not expecting the work to get done, but I found that wasn't effective because I didn't want to bother them thinking I needed an answer at 5 a.m. It was just kind of a note flow for me. And
as it was fresh in your mind.
As it was fresh in my mind. So now we have workflows that I type things into that's not disturbing them at 5 a.m. or in the middle of the night or something.
Actually, when Juliana was on the podcast a few months ago, I had recommended, because she was a late night texter.
Oh.
And I was like, there's a solution to this now on the iPhone. Schedule send.
Yeah, exactly.
So why would you say leadership is not meant to be a solo journey?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you can't lead alone. I mean, there's no way you can lead alone. You need to find your people that help ground you and that help you see your blind spots and who are very open and honest with you, and find mentors in your work or in other aspects of your life that truly will lead you down the path you want to go that they've already walked. And I talk a lot about that, right? Find mentors or hire people that have truly gone down the path you want to go down, and find those people, seek them out, because they really are going to be honest with you.
Beautiful. And that actually brought me to my next question, which was, what does healthy mentorship look like?
Healthy mentorship? Mm-hmm. Well, healthy mentorship is, like I said, that I think I pride myself on when I work with our clients and corporate clients as well, is that we get really, really honest and we don't sugarcoat anything. And I don't pretend like the self-reflection journey is easy. And I don't pretend that getting through some tough stuff is easy. It's not easy. And as you know, I've said it 1,000 times, there's no hack in anything that we want to achieve. And everything I do is built to sustain results and sustain behaviors that you want to change.
Beautiful. And you just got back from a retreat, so I'm curious, what was that experience like for you, and what were you hoping to kind of achieve as you took that time away from your business and your personal life to kind of go internal, is what I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've never done anything like that before. I worked with someone I trust in this space and went on her retreat. Sedona's absolutely insane and amazing. I met some incredible women, and I'm so thankful for that will continue to elevate all of our businesses. But it just had me, when you turn off from your work for 1 week or for 4 days, I think mine was, I was able to journal a lot, and I was able to figure out what direction I wanted to take Collective Women's Leadership, because we are growing very fast and we're growing in different cities, and we have to change some things internally to continue that growth and really start honing in on the Collective Women's Leadership brand. And then there's the Joyce Toti brand. So the Collective Women's Leadership brand is the community aspect of everything that you see in the community happening through our networking events, through our educational events and our mindful events, and bringing a community together. But then when you kind of not necessarily graduate, but when you decide to take the leap and work with me individually, or bring me into your corporation, organization, or one of her collective power sessions, that brand is now Joyce Toti. That's not a Collective Women's Leadership program. And so I realized, at this retreat, that in having that silence and quiet in my brain, that we now have to shift in 2026 and have very two distinctive brands that we're going to be exploiting and growing.
Beautiful answer. And I'm really glad that I was able to touch on that, because I think that for me, anytime I've done like a retreat or a seminar or whatever, where you take that intentional time, that's when you start to have the most, I don't want to call it breakthroughs, but it's like the path kind of unwinds. And for me, the fact that you did this in Sedona was
it was so
synchronistic,
it was
because
beautiful.
I really believe there's something about that vortex energy that
You've been there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's like the downloads that you get there is on another level.
And for me, when I feel all that energy, it makes me more energized. And I'm a extremely motivated person, constantly. But other women I found that were feeling that, it made them like tired. That was very interesting. And hearing the both sides, it was very, very interesting to me.
Very cool. So how would you say community elevates a woman's leadership capacity?
Oh, in every sense of the word, right? If you truly allow yourself, when you join a community and when you join like-minded women who are from different fields with different titles and different seasons of their work journey, and you truly allow yourself to dive into it and get involved, I think it can become life-changing.
Beautiful. I definitely agree. I just actually recently graduated kind of like a mini mastermind, and it was 6 of us women together on different journeys in different parts of our path. And it was interesting because you had kind of like this cross-generational thing going on.
Sure.
And it was the first time I could honestly say I was a baby, because usually I'm kind of like, I wouldn't say the big sister role, but somewhere along that. And so for me, I had women with like decades of experience that anytime something would happen, I would just kind of reach out to one of the pool of women, and it would be interesting because they'd be like, oh, I went through that. Let me tell you how I walked through it. And so it comes to, you don't always need mentorship in terms of a mentor, which I highly stand behind, but sometimes even just having that collective process of like a woman's group that you do trust with different perspectives can be a life-changing aspect.
Sure, that's right.
So what changes when women stop competing and start collaborating?
Their businesses grow, and they grow as a woman and as a leader. And I wish competition wasn't even a word in the dictionary, because I think it's there's a time and place for it, but there's room for everyone kind of to grow in their own way and become successful.
Absolutely. It's about having that abundance mindset, really.
That's right. Yeah.
So if a woman who's listening right now wants to step more fully into leadership, what's one thing she can begin doing this week?
Sit down and write, and like I said earlier, right? Sit down and journal what you value most as a leader.
Beautiful. And what does confident leadership feel like when it's aligned?
That you have 100% self-trust in yourself.
Beautiful. For those who feel called to continue this conversation or work with you, where would you like for them to connect with you?
Oh, they can connect with us on Instagram at collectivewomensleadership.com, our website, collectivewomensleadership.com, my LinkedIn, which is Joyce Toti. Let's see, all of the things Collective Women's Leadership.
Beautiful. And lastly, I always end the conversation with a rapid fire.
Okay.
So think one sentence to one word, depending on the question. And are you ready for me?
Yes.
A recent book that's changed your life. Or any book that's changed your life. Let's make it a little easier.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Hold on. That's changed my life. Oh, a book that's fully changed my life that I read often is The Alchemist.
Love that one.
Yeah.
One word that describes your current season.
Badass.
Love it. A daily non-negotiable that fuels your power, though I think that's going to be working out.
Yeah, working out, yeah.
A boundary that protects your leadership energy.
Dinner with my husband.
Beautiful. A habit that strengthens your confidence. Again, I think that's going to be working out. Sorry.
A habit that strengthens my confidence. My morning rituals. Yeah.
One leadership myth that women need to release.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. Now you stumped me. Shit. There's one leadership myth. You don't need the title to be a leader.
Okay. A truth about leadership you wish more women trusted.
It's not easy. Or they probably already trust that, right?
Hopefully. And lastly, what's something women should stop apologizing for?
Having a point of view.
Love it. So, leadership isn't about proving yourself, it's about trusting yourself and allowing that trust to be felt by others. As we close today's conversation, I would invite you to notice what stayed with you. Not what you need to do next, but what felt affirmed. Leadership isn't about becoming louder or more polished. It's about trusting yourself enough to take up space, whether that's in your voice, your decisions, and your presence. So, Joyce, thank you for the way you lead with clarity, confidence, and deep respect for women you support. And thank you for reminding us that leadership isn't meant to be done alone. If this conversation resonated, I encourage you to sit with it, at least one insight, and allow it to guide how you show up this week, whether that's in a meeting, a conversation, or simply in how you carry yourself. And if you're looking for more conversations like this, ones that bridge the confidence, embodiment, and leadership gaps, be sure to subscribe to the Rise with Anita podcast and share this episode with a woman who's ready to trust her voice a little more fully. Until next time, lead with presence and let yourself lead first.